Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelove and this is Speedplay Touggourt number 5. So we're in an interesting diplomatic situation just off the bat. We can't really expand anywhere nearby. Hejaz has an alliance with Kerkianlu, Ethiopia, and their northern neighbor are allied, and I don't want to go back into sub-Saharan Africa. And that really doesn't leave us much except colonialism. What we can do is put an explorer on our fleet, build a large transport ship fleet, and then just begin moving over to that place. The New World, I mean. And the plan is basically, it's the easiest place where we can go. We can just send our forces over to the Caribbean, scout around, and attack first Mexico, and then pretty much anywhere else that there are large numbers of native countries. Hopefully they will be as weak as I acted like the sub-Saharan Africans would be, and it'll be relatively easy conquests. Admittedly, it's about as good of a plan as the sub-Saharan African little expedition, but I think that they're going to be worse than the sub-Saharans were in tech, although to be honest, I didn't actually look. I'm just sort of going off of a vague assumption. But sometimes that's all you need. And, in fact, this might be one of those cases. So I immediately declare war on this native country and just drop my forces off in the Aztec lands, which I asked for access from, and send the fleet back and begin colonizing in North America. Now what I'm going to do is I'll transport one of the groups of colonial forces and split up the army that is currently occupying our first foothold in Mexico. Meanwhile, France and Spain are in a significant war, and that is great for us as the Spanish have tremendous holdings all throughout and surrounding us in the New World. So while these sieges go on, we can also send our boats back to pick up more forces from our homeland and transfer our armies back through the Aztecs, or end up just defeating more native armies. The plan is basically to take at least 5 provinces. If we do that and then core those provinces, we'll be able to really quickly get a Mexican colonial nation up, and from there on we can just feed them all of the lands in that colonial region. We also begin sending our scouts around, but that's really just more of the same. Now the most important thing though is that we colonize as many places as we can to get as many colonial nations as we can. And right there we get a place on both sides, so we send our fleet up around the Cape. I'm not really sure if people call it the Cape of South America, but I am in this instance. And we got 2 provinces from them, and the other country is 4 provinces, so we can just core that all, except for the province on the wrong side. It's too far out of range. And what we're going to do is then move our army up to the north while we core that, and declare war and just begin assaulting them. Now, this alliance has a very large number of troops, so we immediately send the fleet back. And they keep seizing our colony, but it's no real concern, it's just a bit of an annoyance. We also begin sending the colonists down into South America, which will come up later. So for now, it's just mainly sieging this army out, or this country out, until we get enough forces ready to advance. We really don't have anything to worry about in the battles, as is pretty obvious. And overall, we're in a pretty good spot. We also are very lucky in that we can move our armies back to a battle before it ends. So we don't really have to lose any armies, which was the issue in sub-Saharan Africa. And also, I'm not sure if you caught that, but we are fabricating a claim on Sardinia, as they were forced to be released from Spain, and it seems like a pretty nice idea. Back in the north, though, we are making great progress in our war, and just demolishing all these native armies and occupying their lands. Now, if you notice my gold, I had around 100 in the beginning of this episode, but we're doing amazing, just taking lands and money. We get our first colonial nation as an actual country, so that is just the first of many. It'll probably be fed the least in the near future, though, as we would have to fight Spain for it. But while it may not be the strongest, we got our second immediately, and this one we will feed a lot. as that is in Mexico. Now we just have to take over this North American area, just 5 provinces, maybe 4, and finish our colony. Once that's done, we'll be able to make an American colonial nation, and we'll be from 0 to 3 in a very short amount of time. So this is going to be an area of amazing growth for Touggourt. We build another couple fleets, our armies continue to win, and here we go, we are piecing out to get a nice little 2 provinces. We can actually core them, which is unexpected. And we piece out all the other nations, we annex that one, and we now have 5 territories including our colony. We declare war on Sardinia, just as a war of opportunity, although, come to think of it, those don't usually go well for us. At any rate, we send colonists off into the Indian Ocean and begin just continuing with what we're doing. We're going to move into South America in a moment in order to hopefully get up a 4th colonial nation. Now, well, we have rebels, and that is a very significant issue, as our colonial nation won't be able to handle that. It'll get easier in time. As they get larger, they'll be able to handle their own issues. As it stands right now, though, we really can't hope for that. So, with Sardinia sieged out, we annex it, and begin moving our forces back into South America, where the war has already begun. They seize our colony, but we seize it back. It's a bit of a waste of military points, but we have quite a few military points, and we're not really behind, so it doesn't matter. And we just move our forces forward. We also build a large number of buildings, as we don't actually want to waste those military points by hitting a 999, and we immediately do very well in our war against this other country. We annex the first and just siege out the second. Now, we really do want to go into Mexico, and the British are actually fighting the Aztecs right now, and we don't want them to get that, so we attack them. Meanwhile, we start pulling as many forces as we can, and we've got our new North American colonial nation. We will try to feed all of our colonial nations as much of their relevant coastlines as we can, just to sort of limit the growth of other foreign powers' colonial nations, although we might just do it by war depending on how powerful we are at the time. So we go to take over basically every place around us, really. We only take 1 province because they have a lot of gold, and that was just a better deal. Plus, we have enough colonies that we'll be able to form that colonial nation fairly quickly, no matter what. Now, back in the old world, we begin building forces against the Mamluks. Our truce has ended, and we want to just finish off control over the area. And back in Mexico, our war is going swimmingly. We are pressing the Aztecs back on basically the only front that remains, and that's just us going into the unexplored lands. Now we build up the mercenaries for the final move on the Mamluks. We don't actually have any manpower, and that's going to be a significant issue, but hopefully those buildings that we just built will come in handy for that later. We also upgrade our Diplotech to get our colonial range a little further. Hopefully we can make it to the coast before anyone else. Or at the very least declare war on them by the time that it becomes relevant. So with our armies all built, we combine them and get ready for the war on the Mamluks. First though, we make peace with this nation. We just take their money, as we really have no problem with getting a lot of money. Our inflation's been terrible for a long time, and that won't make it any worse. We also move our forces up into well, we don't actually. I'm sorry, I get ahead of myself. We don't move our forces into North America, although it would be nice. We do have a bit of a rebel problem, but we don't actually have any forces ready. We send our forces up then, and we declare war on the Mamluks at that point. We just split our army up and fight theirs. We then take as much as we can from the Aztecs, and that gives us another merchant. And it also gives us a potential huge rebel problem. We've finally taken out that army in the north, and we will just begin to unsiege that. Unfortunately, there is a bit of an enemy force there as well, so we're just going to send up as many forces as possible to fix the issue. Now, our war against the Mamluks is going all right, but more importantly, we need to worry about trade. With our larger colonial nation, we get an extra merchant, plus we have an idea for that, so we just put those together. The religious holy wars are beginning in Europe, so that'll hopefully mess them up in a bit. The Ottomans have even joined the Protestant League, which is great news for us and terrible news for the Empire. The Portuguese have made a lot of progress in sub-Saharan Africa, though, and that's really concerning. I'll have to deal with that later, although right now we're just dealing with the easiest things we can. Speaking of, the war in North America is going fairly well. Not spectacular, but not too bad. Now, unfortunately, Sardinia revolted, and we don't have any men, and we're spread incredibly thin on the ground. We are going to have to eventually deal with that, but right now we're in no position. And that's very unfortunate, but it's just going to be that way for the foreseeable future. We do, however, send our transports over and begin building as many mercenaries as possible. The thing is, we have a lot of money from our colonial ventures, and we just got a new colonial nation, which is probably going to be the last one for quite a while. Potentially we'll get another one in Peru and maybe Brazil, but that's a very long way away. So for now, what we have to do is just build our armies up, deal with all the fronts, and defeat all the rebels. We continue colonizing and just moving forward. The siege of Sardinia by rebels is the most annoying thing, and I'm going to constantly be building forces to fight that until it's been defeated. Now, we've managed to take quite a bit of money from these North American tribes we're fighting, as hopefully they will pay for all of the mercenaries and expenses that all of these wars have brought about. We defeat the Mamluks ally, which lets us annex them, and we just go about making cores immediately. With that, we have all of North Africa's coast. All of North Africa. It's something we've been working towards for a while. And with that done, we can fully say we are in a safe position for colonization. Speaking of, our war is going fairly well. We do still need to deal with the rebels, and unfortunately, we are not doing very well in this battle. We do get to colonize the near area of the Cape, though. Not quite the most important province, though. The battle is lost, which is terribly unfortunate, but we can hopefully bring forces back to bear against them again, and hopefully win this time. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're so lucky. What we need to do is make peace, which we just did. We got more money, which will hopefully at least make up for the losses involved in this fight against these rebels. Although, honestly, we've spent quite a bit more on Sardinia than we needed to. We do win the battle, though, so now we just slowly siege back. And we can build trade ships. I feel like I need to, just to put all this money from the New World to actual positive use, as opposed to wasting it all on mercenaries to take back Sardinia. So we do that. We build around 29 trade ships. We did build a couple extra mercenaries we didn't need anymore, and that's annoying, but we can build a few buildings and just invest back in the country. Sardinia probably won't be worth it in the long run, but I didn't want to concede defeat to rebels. At any rate, Touggourt is in a fantastic position. We have a place in the sun, or at least a rising place in the sun. And overall, we've come a long way, and we are right about to spring forward. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Touggourt has gone a very long way, and it's going to keep going.